Everyone talks about Gen Z like we're some kind of mystery, lazy, addicted to phones, can't focus on anything. But here's the thing. Most people are just repeating stereotypes without actually understanding what shaped this generation. So let's break it down for real. What actually is Gen Z, and why are we so different from everyone that came before us? Yeah, we live on our phones. That part's true. But it's not because we're addicted for no reason. It's because we grew up inside a world that was built to keep us scrolling. Before we even understood what social media was, it was already shaping how we think, how we talk, and how we see ourselves. So to understand Gen Z, you actually have to start with the internet itself. Every generation gets defined by the world it grows up in. Boomers grew up with TV. Gen X grew up watching the world go digital. Millennials got the early internet. But Gen Z, we never knew a world without it. That one difference changes almost everything about how this generation thinks, communicates, and processes information. Officially, Gen Z is anyone born between 1997 and 2012. That means the oldest Gen Zers grew up watching the internet evolve in real time, and the youngest ones were basically handed a tablet before they could talk. That gap matters. But what unites all of us is that we were raised alongside technology, not introduced to it later in life. Think about it. Some of us had our first photos posted online before we even knew what a phone was. Wi-Fi wasn't something we learned about. It was just there, always. From the very beginning, the internet wasn't a tool we picked up. It was part of the environment we were raised in, like air. And that environment grew up right alongside us. As we got older, the internet got faster, smarter, and way more personal. By the time we hit our teenage years, we weren't just using technology, we were living through it. Our friendships, our identities, even our sense of humor were shaped by what was happening on our screens. Now here's where people love to criticize us. They say Gen Z can't sit through a 2-hour movie without checking their phone, that we can't focus, that our attention spans are broken. But that's not really the full picture, and neuroscience actually backs that up. Our attention isn't shorter, it's trained differently. We grew up switching between tabs, notifications, and short clips constantly, so our brains got really good at processing information fast. It's not a broken attention span, it's a different kind of attention span built for a completely different environment than the one older generations grew up in. Here's the science part. Every time we scroll and see something new, our brain releases a small hit of dopamine, the chemical tied to reward and pleasure. Fast content triggers fast dopamine. And because we've been exposed to that loop since childhood, our brains are just wired to respond to it quicker than older generations. That's why a single notification can feel so satisfying. Every like, every message, every little ding is a tiny reward signal. It's not weakness, it's basic brain chemistry meeting a world that's been engineered very intentionally to keep us engaged. Understanding that is honestly the first step to using it on purpose instead of by accident. On top of that, we're natural multitaskers. Watching a video while texting a friend while half listening to a podcast, totally normal for us. Older generations see that as distraction. We see it as just how we operate. Our brains adapted to juggling multiple streams of information at once because that's the world we grew up in. But it's not all about phones and dopamine. Gen Z is also the most open generation when it comes to mental health. We talk about anxiety, depression, and therapy way more openly than any generation before us. What used to be hidden or shamed is now something we're willing to actually talk about out loud. That shift matters. Growing up with constant access to information also means growing up with constant access to other people's struggles, and honestly our own. So instead of pretending everything's fine, a lot of us learned early that it's okay to not be okay, and that asking for help isn't weakness. Of course, that same openness comes with a cost. Social media puts everyone's highlight reel right in front of us, all day, every day. It's easy to compare your actual life to someone else's most curated, filtered moment, and that comparison trap can quietly chip away at how we see ourselves. The good part? A lot of Gen Z is starting to recognize that trap for what it is, More of us are logging off, taking breaks, and being honest about the fact that social media isn't real life. Recognizing the trap is the first step to actually getting out of it. That's also why Gen Z values authenticity so much more than perfection. We're kind of over the fake, overly polished version of life. We want real, unfiltered, honest. That shift is changing everything from how brands market to us to how we present ourselves online. That same mindset carries into how we think about work and success. A lot of us aren't chasing the traditional 9 to 5, climb the ladder path our parents did. We're building side hustles, prioritizing balance, and redefining what making it even looks like, on our own terms. We also grew up more globally and socially aware than any generation before us. Climate change, equality, mental health, social justice, these aren't abstract topics for us. We grew up watching them play out in real time, right on our phones, so we care about them differently. So when people call Gen Z lazy or broken or too sensitive, they're missing the bigger picture. We're not broken. We just grew up in a completely different world than anyone before us, and we adapted exactly the way you'd expect a generation to. So the next time someone asks what Gen Z actually is, you can tell them, we're not lazy and we're not broken. We're just wired different. And honestly, that's not something to fix. That's something to understand. If this actually made you see Gen Z differently, do me a favor. Hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. And if you want more brain back breakdowns like this one, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. This is Neuro-toons. See you in the next video.